for the news that really matters and the uncensored truth. It's time for the Mr. Chris Show Underground News and Commentary.
Wow. So a few days go by and the news story just keeps piling up just to the ceiling and beyond. So, DiamonDan, are you with us here?
I am here, Mr. Chris.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So, as you know, there's this more and more news every day, and what I want to talk about are two topics. One of them is fairly minor and the other is fairly major. So let's jump into the minor topic first, which are the McCloskeys. Are you familiar with them?
Sure, that's the St. Louis couple that defended their home against the Black Lives Matter protesters who broke through an iron gate, trespassed on private property, and were threatening to burn down their home, kill their dogs, kill them. And they defended their property with an AR-15 and a handgun.
Right. And what is happening to them now as a result?
Well, they're being indicted for, I think it's brandishing a weapon or some sort of weapons charges anyway.
Yeah, but they're felonies. Right. I mean, this is not a minor thing.
No.
And, you know, it's like every gun owner obviously buys a gun in order to defend themselves. I mean, there are some people out there that use guns, usually stealing them for crime and so on and so forth. But I'm not talking criminals, which you define differently than upstanding normal citizens. But a normal citizen who has a gun is going to use it as a means of last resort. And they didn't even shoot anybody. They just deterred an otherwise ugly situation, but they're still in trouble.
Right, and it's perpetuating the narrative that you're not allowed to defend yourself anymore. That people are going to be afraid to defend themselves when they're going to be in possibly mortal danger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, what do you think it would be like if there was, let's turn the tables here. Let's say that these people were not white. Do you think there'd be any difference as far as what the media does to treat this story and these people?
Oh, sure. I think we wouldn't be hearing about it anywhere. It'd be nowhere to be found.
So we have these people that are they're both attorneys, as far as I know.
Yeah, I believe they're personal injury attorneys.
Okay, and they're, according to what I've read, they basically are standing to lose their law licenses, which would obviously take out their livelihood and their ability to make money and so on and so forth. And that just seems, I mean, a gross understatement, a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's persecution. It's the very definition of persecution, because Missouri has a law, I believe it's called the Castle Law, where you have the right to defend your home, in this very circumstance. So the fact that the district attorney is charging them, indicting them with a crime for this is purely politically motivated. I mean, it's obviously not going to stand up to the law of the land, but these poor people have to go through this nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's look further into the story. Maybe it's all fair. Let's see what's happening to the 9 protesters that were charged.
Yeah, exactly. I believe their charges were dropped.
Wow. So basically, you can trespass on somebody's property, go up to their home, threaten them in various ways, and your charges are dropped. However, if you're defending your own property against an onslaught, then that is a bad thing. I just need to know, what's right and wrong these days, because it's hard to tell.
Yeah, obviously, everything is being reversed. Right is being called wrong, and wrong is being called right.
Yeah. It'd be interesting if we did have, like, the looking glass technology to glimpse the future, to be able to see different timelines. I mean, obviously, we don't want anything to happen to these people or anybody else, but I bet if they did not defend themselves, the alternate timeline of the actions of not defending themselves would be their house would be ablaze.
Oh, yeah, and they probably would have lost their pets. They may have become injured or even killed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the news media wouldn't have covered it. We wouldn't have heard a thing about it.
Yeah, and what about PETA and the other groups you see up in arms about pets? And so, are they standing up with the McCloskeys and saying, that you could have hurt their pets?
Nowhere to be found.
Wow. Well, I guess, they're probably busy on other things. I mean, that's obviously, but yeah, I just wanted to address that article because it was just unbelievable what is happening in the United States. Where I'm at, it's a different story, but back in the U.S. where you are, I guess you're still in the U.S., right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. This doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it's sad. It really is. It's just another story that is just we have to fight. We have to stand up and fight. This cannot stand.
Right.
So.
And I will just put it out there because a lot of people may not even understand what the Second Amendment is actually for. But the Second Amendment is actually wrapped in wording and discussions of the individual's ability to be protected against the government. I don't think a lot of people even know that.
Right. It was, if you think about the times that was written, it was, the very thing that won us our independence from England was the raising up of militia to bolster the regular army to be able to defend against the British. And that's exactly what this, the Second Amendment says. It gives us that right to arm ourselves against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And, obviously the enemies that are domestic are trying to take that away from us.
Right. And there's plenty of letters by Thomas Jefferson and others that if people read, they would really understand that the Second Amendment is not just some minor detail in the Constitution. And the reason why it's in second place actually should tell you a little something about it. But nevertheless, we can address that later at some point. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities for those stories. But let's move on to something that's really, really critical here, and that is the Trump COVID positive test announcement that I'm sure that you became aware of at the time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And just astonished by the politicization of everybody involved, on the left. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing, from people actually verbally wishing that he would die from this, to being catty and snarky and all the different comments that have gone out. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. And what's even more unbelievable, I'm going to bring up right now, I was just speaking with S.S.K. Brown and basically bouncing ideas off of him, which he affirmed that it is my opinion that this was nothing short of an assassination attempt, and at least an assassination attempt plus trying to derail the Senate hearings, the upcoming hearings for the justice to be, Trump's press secretary, generals now are testing positive. It seems like you have an enclave of people testing positive, all surrounding Trump.
Right. Yeah. Very close group around him, and now some generals, a grouping of generals, commanders, secretaries, and I hadn't thought of that, but it sure does make sense that it could be some sort of an assassination attempt.
Yeah. Well, so think of it this way: we have Trump and the others, and they've been taking various precautions. Of course, the mainstream media will say that no, he was blatantly not wearing his mask at certain situations, and of course, we've covered the mask thing many times before. But regardless of that, you have a situation at the debate where now, last time I checked, there was 11 debate organizers were tested positive. So there was obviously something going on there, and I think that was one spot. Maybe not the epicenter, but that was one spot. And if you think about it, there can be people who, obviously, you have gophers that set up the mics, set up the stage, set up everything, and they could just go up there with a rag and just kind of, let me just wipe this down. Let me put alcohol, in quotes here, alcohol on this rag and wipe it all down for the president. I don't think the Secret Service would be any suspicious of that. I think they would just look and just see what they were doing. So anybody could have carried it out. They could have covered his microphone. And given the hour and a half that he was there and touching the podium, touching the microphone possibly, touching his face at some point maybe after, I think it's completely likely that happened.
Yeah, you may be right. And then, for so many people around him, the press secretary, so many aides. Yeah, it could have been in the water. Food.
I didn't think of that, but yeah, exactly. They probably do have something for them. So sure, why not just spread it around?
Yeah. It didn't work, but
right.
They're losing their minds. The left is that he's getting better, didn't show symptoms. And then they're even criticizing the doctors and the way that they treated him, that they gave him medications and things. I mean, everything. There's nothing that isn't attacked. There's nothing that's off limits anymore. It's everything, Yeah. They just go after everything.
And let me go a little deeper into the rabbit hole since we're already kind of going down there anyway. Back a few weeks ago, do you remember there was a news story about a woman coming in from Canada, and then there was a package containing ricin going to the president?
Yes, yeah, and they intercepted it, figured it out, but yes.
Yeah, so would you consider that A, birthday gift and a joke, or B, an assassination attempt not well thought out?
Yeah, definitely the latter.
Yeah. So, and we have people that obviously don't like Trump, like you said. They're happy that he had a diagnosis. But there's something that you were mentioning, too, about he got over it quickly. Now, Trump did tell us that he was taking HCQ, which is the pharmaceutical version of the quinine, which comes from the cinchona tree in South America, originally treating malaria, and symptoms of those are similar to it. But you had that. So, this is what I'm proposing. I'm thinking that he knew the playbook. He knew there was going to be a hit. He knew all these things. But also he was protected with the HCQ that he was taking. But nevertheless, he went along with it. He let them infect him. But as we know from the various doctors who are using HCQ, apparently that with zinc is able to open the cells of the virus. The zinc gets in, and it basically turns the virus into something that cannot replicate, and then it's gone.
Okay.
But the point I'm making is that he knew it was coming. He let it happen. He took a risk getting through it, but he knew that he was on the HCQ. He bounces back, and now he shows us as citizens that, hey, just like he's saying, I got through it. It's not such a bad thing. Don't be afraid. Live your lives.
Yeah, right. And he comes out stronger than ever, and that, the left is losing their minds over that. Now, if this was something that he planned out, if obviously brilliant, it would have been definitely a gamble. But the guy was strong. Other than being a little overweight, he has low blood pressure. I mean, he's full of energy. Got more energy than I do, and he's 25 years older than me.
Yeah. So I'm not suggesting that he planned this. What I'm suggesting is that he knew of the plan and let it happen because he was confident of the outcome.
Sure.
And also,
it's feasible.
Yeah, this is a theory. I don't have any solid proof, but I see things. I see attempts. I see this. I see the breakout that involves various people. Like you said, his press secretary, we got generals. There's people in the Senate. Mike Lee of Utah. He was at the Senate hearings recently, and I think they figured that they were going to spread it all around, knock him out, at least put him down for several weeks until the election, and then they wouldn't have a chance for the hearings of the justice. They wouldn't have a chance to continue with all of the investigation into the FBI, which there was documents released just today that I believe it was notes and such, which is, in my opinion, the documents we've already seen are smoking gun. This is like a smoking gun and a video and eyewitnesses.
Yeah, and Trump just tweeted today, a little while ago, actually, about 20. I'm not exactly sure when, but he says, I have fully authorized the total declassification of any and all documents pertaining to the Russia hoax, Hillary Clinton email scandal, yada yada. So he's going to declassify all of it. There's not going to be anything that's going to be redacted or classified.
Wow. Because in the notes today, there was some portions that were redacted. I believe it was the response Obama was asking, is there evidence of this or something? That the response was redacted, at least the ones today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this showed up on on my news feed, and no redactions, basically what he's saying. So, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so it seems like the other side, they're raising the stakes, as we go back and forth, but it looks like Trump is raising the stakes right there too, and I don't think he's at the point where it's all in, but they're pretty close to it. I mean, we're what is this here, the 6th of October, and we basically have less than 30 days. The countdown's on to the voting, although the results, I think we talked about there's going to be two results. The first result is Trump wins by a landslide. The second is going to be the violence and aftermath saying, no, you have to count every possible vote everywhere in the universe, including all of the millions of Chinese printed up,
Right, exactly.
And they're going to try to
it's not going to
drag it on.
Be accepted, but there's going to be the righteous law-abiding side of it, and then, like you said, the unrighteous, unlawful side of it that's going to burn down the towns and protest.
And I was actually speaking to somebody the other day, and they said, well, doesn't it, what about the popular vote and stuff? I said, no. I said, we're talking about the United States. The popular vote means nothing. It is the Electoral College. And I was trying to explain to them about the process. And I think there's this misconception that if you win the popular vote, you win, and that's what people are trying to sell. Obviously, in the last election, that's what everybody was complaining about.
Right, exactly. And if you go back to Bush and Gore, remember that whole thing with Florida and the hanging chads and the recounts? That was all the same thing as 4 years ago. It was Gore won the popular vote, but Bush got the electoral votes. So then what they're going to do, like they did a little bit of it last time around, they go after the electorates. So the actual electoral college participants who are representatives, they're special representatives who are elected in different states that have and are bound by duty to report their vote by December 13th. So what's going to happen is they're going to go after them, and they're going to threaten them. They're going to threaten their families. They're going to come after them and try to get them to either rescind their vote, not vote at all, or to change their vote.
Well, see, this is why I'm glad we spoke, because I had not even have thought of that, and I guess based on your extensive research, I mean, I fully support that. That's an extremely likely possibility.
Yeah, I mean, last time around we had celebrities that were actually, for lack of a better word, lobbying or pleading with the electorate that they should change their vote or just not vote. And of course it didn't work, but that was 4 years ago. Things are way different now, and I don't know, that's all just up in the air. That's an absolute that has to happen by that date so that the actual, candidate can be named, or the
December 14th is the date you're speaking of.
Okay,
the electoral college votes are in regardless one way or the other.
Right. So if you can delay that or, cause that to, certain states to not come in, then you're going to have a constitutional crisis on your hands, and then the Secretary of State will take over if they are still in power. And so there you go. There's a plan right there, and I foresee that as a very real thing that we're going to see, at least an attempt.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to be combined with more riots, all kinds of things. I mean, I've heard on the conspiracy side of things talk about a power grid interruption and issue, and I've heard both thoughts on that no, it's completely secured, and maybe things will be out, maybe the internet will be out for a couple of days, because that could really throw a wrench into things, obviously, for a lot of people, because that's where they get a lot of their information and news.
Sure. And I suggest on that note that everybody listening to us go ahead, find an old-fashioned AM radio, stock up with batteries, have that stuff. You should have it anyway, but have that stuff available, because that's the only way we're going to get any kind of news. If the grid goes down, you're not going to be, you're going to switch on your computer, get a news feed, or get any kind of Wi-Fi. Cell towers are going to be down. You're not going to have any cell service.
Right.
So to get linked to the outside world, you're going to need, a radio that has its own power. So good to start looking into now. I also think that we're going to see, prior to the election, this is just my thought, my prediction, but I think we're going to see a very big rise in voter intimidation. So you're going to see basically, and we've heard this from the left already, basically Joe Biden wins or else. We're going to burn the whole country.
Right.
So we're going to see people either out in front of polling places or just in neighborhoods taking to the streets and intimidating anybody who voices an opinion against the left, has a Trump flag, or any kind of an indication that they're not voting left. And it's just going to be massive intimidation.
Well, then I would suggest then if our listeners and anybody else wants to avoid issues, then simply if you do see these thugs and these people up there, you can just flash your yay Biden, and then they'll leave you alone, because that actually gives you partial immunity.
Right. So, and then that just swings us back around to the silent majority, because a lot of people who are on the right who will be voting for Trump, can't say anything at work. They can't discuss things like that openly. Yet the left can do and say anything they want. They can just have their little parties at the drinking fountain and making jokes about Trump and everybody, and it's just great and it's all fun. But the people on the right really can't say anything. But you know what? We're listening, we're paying attention, and we're going to make a change on November 3rd. That's what power to the people is all about, and that's what we need to do. Get out there and make our voices heard.
I will say that I will just make a slight alteration to what you said, and that is that you are free to express your opinions at work about your support for Trump. However, the repercussions are what's going to get to you.
There you go. Yep, of course.
Yeah. So, because they never say, "Oh, we don't interfere with people talking about things and politics." we won't do that.
Actually, I don't work at a place like that, but friends of mine and stuff have said that their corporate bosses and different people have said no political talk of any kind yet. If it's left oriented, it's tolerated. But other people have been drug out, and spoken to, and their job is threatened because they, spoke anything on the right. And that's a very real reality. I think you've probably heard of the city workers and I want to say it's Seattle, that were, if you're white, or white male especially, but if you're white, you're required to go through black sensitivity training, and you're made to, you're educated on your white privilege, and you're given lessons on how to remove that and to make yourself aware of it. You can't remove it, but you can make yourself aware of it, and you can disavow it, you can confess it and apologize for it. So this is a very real thing, and this is being done by a government employer.
Well, that's just par for the course these days. I'm really not surprised. It's the first I've heard of it, but I'm not surprised. But the problem is that they are using this identity and race thing as a weapon every way they can to disrupt things, and that's not going to go away until maybe November, December 14th, and then we'll see it again in a few years, I suppose, at the next election.
Well, yeah, but think about the last 4 years. It didn't really go away. This has been a 4-year-long ramping up of all of this identity politics and everything that we're seeing, and all the violence and all the outspokenness about socialism and communism. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. It used to be something that they wouldn't come out and say, but you would see it in their policies. But now they're just coming out and saying it. They're going to take your guns away. Yeah, they're going to impose all the socialistic rules and regulations. So it's a changed world.
Yeah, it definitely is. So anyway, we are actually out of time for this segment, but I guess we will reconvene as soon as we can with more news and information, if that sounds good, provided the whole world doesn't burn down by then.
That's right. Okay, we'll see you next time. God bless you, Mr. Chris.
And the same to you, DiamonDan. And we'll talk next time right here on the Mr. Chris Show Underground.